Hi, this is Mike from Horsefly, and today I'm going to be talking about talent analytics in the new normal, and really covering off some of the reasons why data is really important, and it's probably going to become even more important as the world of work has changed. So to just give a really brief introduction, so as Horsefly, we're a real-time market analytics platform, and we work with a wide range of clients from central government to the private sector and global businesses, supporting across a range of different things. But what's really important when we work with any of the clients is defining success criteria around why data and talent insights is going to be important and what problems it's going to solve. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues we see, or the barriers to people not necessarily, either investing or using data and insights. So on my screen here, there's just a few things really that we see people using data for. So that could be around the workforce planning and understanding, future skills that you're going to need. Where's the business going in the next 12 to 24 months, for example? Aligning salaries, candidate supply and demand, your gender diversity, university partnerships, and those, critical skill shortages, where are they? And again, when we look at what's happened with COVID-19, how is the landscape going to change, over time from now to the near future? Just rather than talking about solely what we see as an organisation of why people are using data, I think it's really interesting to look at the overall market. And a recent survey from something I was reading across the Harvard Business Review is saying that globally businesses are spending over 40 billion annually on technology and services for data analytics, and that's increasing 12% year on year. But the really interesting thing on that, 50% of the C-suite that were actually interviewed and spoken to about this was still saying they didn't necessarily feel that they were a data-driven organisation. And a lot of that comes down to, and a few other quotes you could look at around, actually, people are still, using gut feel. So data is only the backup to actually what they automatically think themselves. And that unconscious bias can often be why data is perhaps dismissed, because it also feels a lot better when you're going with what you feel. So data in a world of new normal, you could argue very much, and in my opinion, that actually, normal is constantly evolving. There is not necessarily a new normal. It's evolving at a much more rapid pace at the moment, because we're forced to change how we're working. We're forced to change where we work. We've carried out a global survey across TA, workforce planning, and HR, and without going into all of that, 91% of people surveyed, and this is right the way from 5,000 plus organisations to small businesses as well, think that their employers will be even more open or expect to work from home post COVID-19. So I think when we look at that, actually, the landscape which you've always recruited for, and perhaps you've been siloed to particular office locations, if those people aren't going to be expected to be in the office all the time, or maybe only some of the time, or maybe not even at all, actually that mobility of your workforce drastically changes. And I've spoken to a range of businesses recently that are saying that don't anticipate going back to full-time office. So that could be, from a global mobility perspective, not just even in the UK, my workforce could be anywhere. And if that's the case, how do you then know what the market looks like? And again, data is going to drive and give you that insight to really help understand why. To talk about the evolvement of the use of data, so we're already saying that large investments going in year on year. We did a small piece of work with a white paper that actually Toby Coleshaw over at Phillips and Malik did. It was really interesting to understand, and what we tried to put together is what's the expected growth of data and insights in the marketplace, or talent intelligence, if you like, to where we are now. And if we go back to sort of the early 2000s to coming up to sort of 2019, we're seeing a huge growth in talent intelligence appearing within profiles, within people's CVs across the industry. And we fully expect that into 2020 and where we are now, that's going to continue to grow. And it just shows the importance of data and how people are now seeing that as business as usual within the marketplace. So just a statement, really. It's around, to provide a solution, you first have to define the problem. And I think that's something which really resonates with what we do as a business. And it came from one of our clients that actually, how can you solve a problem if or how do you solve a problem and how can you provide that solution if you don't actually know fully what the problem is in the first instance? So moving on from sort of looking at providing the solution to what your problems are, wanted to actually start looking at some of the positivity that we're seeing, in the marketplace. So on the screen here is a list of different job titles across recruitment, HR, and talent acquisition. And actually, we're looking at the trend analysis of jobs per 1,000 working population and the demand there. We can see some really positive signs of the market starting to pick up. Now, obviously, there's been a drastic impact across that. But again, this is data that's driving that. And actually having data that can actually show what any market, any job title, any skill, and what's happening to that can really start to help define and shape some of the recruitment strategies that you're looking for. Once I've sort of talked through a couple of these slides, I'm going to invite one of my partners and someone I've worked with for a long time, Richard Hutchinson, to come and talk about how they're using data in a real world scenario to actually to make an impact. But my final slide really that I wanted to talk about is something that we've shared before, but data is nothing without the people that are going to drive that. It is numbers. So essentially, if you think of any platform that's providing data and insights to support what you do, that data is being aggregated right the way from across the social web and pulled in, to information. That knowledge sat behind those platforms using algorithms, taxonomies to actually, marry up skills and job titles is building that insight, if you like. But the wisdom is where people come into this. And again, it's really, really important that it's not just about having access to data. It's actually having the expertise and the wisdom to actually take that data